Whew, boy. I really should do some cardio. Alright guys, welcome to the video. I'm here. And today we're going to be making some heavy trap music. I've sort of gone for a heavy trap style, sort of inspired a bit by Skrillex, a bit by Troyboi, a bit by RL Grime, a bit by trap music. So yeah, today we're going to be making a heavy trap drop song. Let's go. Alright, so here we are. Here's the project file. Beautiful. So first things first, our BPM. I've got mine set to 75. Fun fact, 75 is half of 150. So that means this song is basically 150. Maths. Essentially all I've got here is a simple little bass progression. Super simple, A, F, D, F, G. Of course, all I'm using there is a slightly detuned saw bass with a low pass filter on it. I paired that bass with a verse synth. So this verse synth is just playing the exact same notes as the bass line, but it's got a few more layers stacked up here, as you can see. This is just a simple little preset I found. It's sort of like an organ type thing, I guess. As always, atmospheric sample. Gotta love some atmosphere. Last but not least, in terms of the melodics of this build up, I have this little vocal chop slice sort of thing that I just found on Splice. I just thought it set a good vibe for the song, and it actually turned out to be quite important. We might actually use that again in the drop. So when we throw all those elements together and add this little low pass and high pass filter to open up the frequencies, we get a nice little intro and a nice little verse section. Of course, we're going to transition into our sort of verse, sort of pre-drop section, a few rises, and an impact and a downlifter. And then I added like a clap and a trap snare pattern. This is just introducing some drums and it gives it a good vibe. It gives it that good trappy sort of build-up-y sort of vibe. You know, a bit of claps, a bit of snares. And I also just have this synth plugin there that's really low in the mix. I made it, it's there, so he's just chilling, you know. Now as we move towards the actual build up, I've just got a few more of these like cinematic hits and a riser to move into the build up section. It sort of acts as like a drum fill sort of transition. So when we actually hit this build up section, I cut basically all of the instruments except for the atmospheric sample and the vocal chops. I keep my drums going and my claps going, but basically I just wanted to suck all the energy out of the verse and basically create this huge amount of tension by just sort of being like, yo, no more instruments, dude. What you gonna do about it? To create that effect, I just have this big, fat, beefy sub drop, an exhaust, just my claps and my atmospheric sample and my vocal chops and my trap drums, and then the rest is just basically build up elements. So we got some big rises here, And then we have my drop bass filtering in underneath all of that, just really slowly and subtly, but because we've sucked all the energy out of this build up, you sort of notice it's there, and you sort of notice that it's creeping in. And the last little elements that really complete this build up is just this sort of sub riser thing that I've made here. And I added some kicks with the other drums, and the drums sort of just come together in a typical build up sort of style. The very last part of this build up is just a snippet of the vocal chop, and this is just heavily distorted, absolutely crushed. Alright, so the idea for this drop came to my mind, so I made it. So this idea was basically a heavy bass sound that sort of pitched down, and in between those heavy bass sounds was like sort of glitch things. So basically there I was one day, you know, just chilling, just vibing with life, you know. This idea comes and it's like trap drop, like heavy trap drop, you know. Like it goes like So where's the best place to start with this? I think the best place to start would be where I started, and that's with the drop bass. So this drop bass essentially consists of two primary layers. We have this like brassy sort of synthy bass sound. And that's like the heavy, weighty part of this bass. And the second part is just this sample that's been slightly pitched down to sort of fit with the heavy bass. And all it is a little like crystal glass sample that I found from Splice. And add a little bit of frequency shifter to pitch that down. So I think I should do a bit of a sound design session with this brass bass sort of thing. I'm going to put the presets in the description, so if you want it, go and download it. So this bass preset started as this brass stab, and I just have this brass stab in my presets library. It's something that I've made before, and it's just essentially a nice sort of natural sounding brass. I'll put that preset in the description as well, so download that if you want. Then it basically becomes this sort of metally, synthy sort of sound. So if we look through here, obviously I've changed the wavetable, I've changed that to a Monster 7, and I also have an acid over here on the oscillator B. They're both dropped 2 octaves. On the envelopes, I've got the wavetable position turned up. This is connected to envelope 1, and also you can see there's a lot of FM from B there. LFO 3 is moving the wavetable of oscillator B, so it's playing at a rate of a bar, and that is slowly moving through the table of acid, just creating a little bit of variation as we move along. If we look at the filter here, I've ramped the res up a little, up the drive. The cutoff is not opening up the sound fully, but enough to get that high end sort of crackling through there. Now we go into the FX. I have rectify on the distortion, and you can see the mix isn't going all the way up, and the only other effects is this filter, and that is running an all pass filter, and you can see that this LFO is connected. It is doing something to that cutoff that I don't really understand. Things you do when you're sound designing, I guess. And LFO 4 is this really quick movement up and down on the cutoff. The only other real thing is the pitch bend down here. Now obviously I've got that automating throughout the song, but basically we're just hitting this F note and we're just bending down to a G. That's all it is. Layer that up with just a normal sub bass, and we get this heavy bass. I guess the next best thing to do is look at these drums. So I just went for a heavy sort of short hard kick and a nice slappy sort of snappy snare, and put those together in a nice little trap pattern. I also added a little hi-hat in there. Another essential part of this drop is these little glitch sounds. So I just basically raided Splice. I know I should probably be sound designing myself, but hey, I'm just fooling around. And an easy thing to do is just gather a whole heap of like dubstep and glitch sounds and throw them in. Essentially, we're going glitch and then bass. Glitch and then bass. Another cool thing I wanted to do was like a mid-drop fill. I'm noticing a popular thing people are doing these days is sort of having this like real heavy re-space and sort of putting some drum and bass sort of drums in there, like real quick sort of snappy sharp drum and bass drums. So what I had for this is the re-space, the drum and bass drums, a little riser, another little riser, and a snippet of my vocal chop. So this re-space is just playing an A note and it's going on the A4 up to the A5, and this is a cool little preset I found. Moving into the second half of the drop, basically all I change is the drums. They're just getting a little bit more interesting. I add in this little hey sound. And then we go into the last section of the drop, and what I've done here is I've cut out the brassy bass and just left the sub to pitch down. Also, I have my little glass frequency shifted sample in there as well. So we get rid of that really thick brassy bass and we just add back our vocal chop. That vocal chop is just camel crushed to the absolute max. So I hope you guys had a good time with this video. Hope you learned something. Hope there's something you could take away from this. So yeah, I hope this shows you that you can make a really effective song with very little. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Until next time. Thank you very much. Good night.